Hi, Karen Flaherty here from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of the new year, and Happy New Year to everybody. It's good to be back, and it's today we're going to be talking about the gate 54, which is the gate of ambition. Great. So we've got the Sun in gate 54, which comes off the left side of the root center down here, and it goes from January 5th until January 11th. We've got the Earth in gate 53, which also comes off the root. It's the top of the root. Gate 53 down here is all about beginnings, starting things. And so this is a wonderful time to, if you want to do goals for the year, for example, this is a great time to do it. It's the gate of ambition and the gate of beginnings. And so if there are new things that you want to get started and pursue in the new year, this is a good time to do it. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you have to wait until the beginning of the new human design year, which is on January 21st, to get started on your goals and intentions for the year. But it's a great time to be thinking about them. And you'll have the energy to think about them, think into the future, and be ambitious about them, which is nice. So there's no definition in the transits until the 9th, and then Venus moves into gate 19, and it forms the channel of synthesis, which is down here. It's the 1949. 49 was already in Saturn, and then 19 adds into Venus, and this will be here for about a week. And so what we have is the solar plexus defined, and we also have the root defined. So, those of you who don't have the root will feel as if you have the root defined, which will make you feel a little more grounded and rooted and not perhaps so stressed and, feeling like you have to do something all the time, because that's the way the open root feels. And also we might have a little more emotion coming into play starting on the 9th. So this gate 54 is all about ambition. It's called Drive, or the Marrying Maiden in the original I Ching. The Marrying Maiden because somebody, whether it's a male or female with ambition, might be marrying up, basically, and making changing partners, let's say, and getting more and more influence as they marry. That's the idea. So the way the book describes it is the interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. So, ambition can apply to a lot of different things. It can be your work, it can be your relationships, it can be in your community, you can be ambitious in a lot of different ways. And that's what this is saying. So the incarnation crosses this week are the crosses of penetration, ambition, and cycles. And then in the gate 53, we've got beginnings, which is all about development or beginnings in the original I Ching. This is development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. So basically you are starting things, but you're doing it with a solid base. You're thinking about it. You're wondering how it's going to turn out. You're making plans for it. It's really a solid kind of beginning. And so in the gene keys, it's called immaturity in the shadow, expansion is the gift, and superabundance is the CD. So when we take a look at gene key 54, what we see in the graphic what we see in this graphic for ascension is that aspiration allows you a much broader vision of how to create more prosperity for everyone. And that's from Richard Rudd. So the whole idea here, and let's go into the different definitions. The shadow version of this gene key is greed. So you can be ambitious, but with greediness as the end, or greediness as the main component, getting you the results that you want. The gift is aspiration, which brings it up a level where greed is not the main component and you're ambitious purely to help other people. And then ascension is the top. And that's something to aspire to, basically. So he also says greed is an energy that will compromise its own integrity in a flash to what it wants, and that this is its downfall. And it's interesting because Richard also says that we can tell as soon as we meet somebody what their intentions are in different ways. We all have different open centers, right? But with Greed, there's actually pheromones, and you've probably heard of pheromones. Pheromones are put off lots of different ways and for lots of different reasons from the body. When we're in love, for example, there are pheromones. When there's a new relationship, there are a lot of pheromones running around, right? And the hormones are kind of very active. But what Richard says, and I'd never heard this before, is that the pheromones of greed are apparent as well. And so when we meet somebody whose main objective is to make money, such as a salesman or a CEO of a company or some client to client relationship, when we realize through whether it's the pheromones or our intuitive nature or our emotions or the fear that might be present in them, we'll get the idea and the strong feeling, right, that these people are just out for the money. And that, I'm sure that happens to you. It certainly happens to me. And when people are just out for the money, as Richard says, the pheromones perk up and we can actually smell that. And it's not a good smell. And so you want to basically avoid those if possible, or walk out of the room if you can, to avoid those types of interactions when you're working with somebody who's purely looking for the end result as being the money, as opposed to helping people. He also says the flow of prosperity is directly proportional to the flow of energy at all levels within your life, beginning with your own body. And so we have the ability, by raising our vibration and frequency, to bring in prosperity. And so that's also a good lesson for the beginning of the year, right? To want to bring in more abundance, more prosperity, more health, more wealth, and all that good stuff, with whatever goals we decide to make for this year, so that everything works together. And the better we feel, the better our vibrations are, the better the frequency, the more prosperity and abundance there will be. So with this gate 54, you can imagine most of these people had the gate of penetration, or sorry, the incarnation cross of penetration, the right angle cross of penetration. For example, Stephen Hawking, Elvis Presley, and David Bowie, just for example, were all born on January 8th, different years, of course, but they were all born on January 8th. They all have that right angle cross of penetration. And I think you could say that they were fairly penetrating personalities, right? They made a mark. They're still known to this day. They've all passed at this point. And Stephen Hawking lived to be 76 years old, which is pretty amazing. But he passed away a few years ago, and they made a mark. They definitely made a mark on the world, and they are remembered, for that penetrating charisma that they had. So today we're going to talk about Jeremy Renner, not because I know him that well. I'm actually not too familiar with his work, but because he's in the news. And I just wanted to point out a few things in his chart that will probably help in his recovery. So Jeremy Renner was born on January 7th, 1971. So he's just turning 52 years old. And he was born in Modesto, California. He's a manifesting generator with the 2-4 profile, and he does have the right angle cross of penetration. And I'll say that this cross of penetration can be intense, although he doesn't have the gate of intensity, and it can be come across as someone who's here for a purpose, here to make a difference, here to be someone who's kind of in your face, right? And making himself known. And I think he has. Over the last 30 years, he's done quite a few films. He is an actor. He's been nominated for lots of different things. He was nominated for 2 different Academy Awards, but he did not win. And he plays Hawkeye in the Avenger movies. And you might have also seen him in Mission Impossible and The Hurt Locker and American Hustle. There's a bunch of movies that really, blockbuster kind of movies that he's been in. So he's been pretty prominent over the last, say 20 years since he really made his mark. And he does have that ambition, the 54 up in his conscious sun and the 53 beginnings. So the other part of this is the 57. The other part of the incarnation cross is the 57, which is all about intuition, and the 51 is shock. And so I would, just gently suggest that he has done and said shocking things, and he's had shocking things happen to him in his lifetime. And this most recent accident is one of them. If you haven't heard, he was run over by his own snowplow as he was helping a stranded motorist on January 1st, New Year's Day, near his home in Nevada. And it was really a huge snowstorm, and he was out with his very large snow cat, as he calls it. And it's really a caterpillar with the full wheels or whatever you would call those on the caterpillar, and it's huge. And he was run over by it by accident, of course, but he was still run over by it. And it's now 6 days later, and he's recovering. He's had 2 surgeries, but he's recovering, and he seems to be alert and awake, and probably has a long stint ahead of him, but he looks to be recovering at this point. So, I'll point out a few things in his chart. He's got the defined ajna. He's got the 4323, which means, which makes him basically brighter than the average bear. He's got the defined throat as a manifesting generator connected directly to the sacral, and doesn't have anything connected to the G from the throat. So he's not prone to withdraw when he's criticized, which is probably a good trait to have in Hollywood, because criticism is the name of the game there. Although interestingly enough, he's won a lot of critics awards. He's won a lot of those. He's got the 48, which is all about being, it's the gate of depth, DEPTH, but it is also about learning something, learning your craft, and doing it really well. And I think, most people would agree that he's done that. He does have the entire channel of money and resources, or the allocation of resources. So he's done quite well in his career, keeping very busy with his films, but also making more and more money, I suspect, especially as he got into the Marvel comic characters that he's been playing recently. He does have this 59-6, which is all about reproduction and mating. He was married once, just for a year and a bit, had one daughter, and they've been divorced for 7 years now. So, and he apparently doesn't have any relationship at this point. His mother and his sister were with him in the hospital, helping him to, get through the recovery. So it doesn't seem like there's any love interest at this point. He is single definition. Everything, and what that means is that everything is connected. So as a manifesting generator with a defined throat and the defined sacral, he's got the energy he needs, he's got the voice he needs, and everything, if you took a pencil and followed it down, everything is connected in his chart to each other. And so what that means with single definition, I don't think I've ever gotten into this before with you, but the single definition means that he doesn't really need anybody. He's perfectly fine on his own. He may not be so perfectly fine driving a snowcat, but he's perfectly fine on his own in terms of relationships. He can choose to be in a relationship or not. He doesn't really need anyone. He doesn't need a business partner. He doesn't need a romantic partner if he chooses not to. If he does choose to, it's totally because he wants to. It's totally because he wants to be in a relationship with somebody, not because he has to. The rest of us, anybody with a split definition of any sort, we really do need other people. And especially in romantic relationships. Split definitions really do much better if they're in a romantic relationship. It just helps them to feel more connected, because most likely the person you're with is going to fill in those splits in your chart. And that's a good thing. That's always a good thing. So he does have, so the defined sacral, solar plexus, but it's a very mild wave of emotions that he has. The defined spleen is what helps me to believe that he'll get through this recovery process. It'll be tough. It'll be, difficult, but it'll be something that he'll feel as if he is feeling good, right? He gave a kind of a chipper Instagram video today, and he'll continue to do that, even though the road will be tough for him. Personally, he's still going to feel like he'll make it, like he's going to be good, because that's what the spleen is about when it's defined, is that, it's almost, I like to call it the Tony the Tiger, I'm great kind of energy. It's like, no matter what's going on, they're great. And even if he might not realize how severe it is at this point, or how, long the process of recovery and rehab will be, he's still feeling great. And so that's a good thing. And that always helps. And he's got people around him. So they will be helping him, even though he'll feel at times that he doesn't need it. So he does have this entire manifesting generator channel, as well as the channel of power, and this channel of charisma. And that kind of describes him. So he's got the ambition, he's got the correction, he's got principles, he's got the gate 55, spiritual abundance, does have the gate of shock, but he's also got the charm and grace. And he's got the 46, I just noticed, which will help him in his recovery also, because he's very much about love of the flesh, taking care of himself, being in good health, making sure that he's doing what he needs to do to stay in good health. And so that will help him along also. So I think with the energy he has, with the voice that he has, and with the inherent brilliance in his chart, the gate of ideas, the gate of answers, and a few other things, I think he'll be fine. I think his road to recovery may be long, but he'll do it, and he'll do it cheerfully. So hope you have a great day, have a great week. The gate 54 is one that will give you a little oomph in your step if you're in a career, and help you to start thinking, if you haven't already, about the intentions and the goals for the coming year in a way that really feels good for you. So have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.